The little girl was dressed in an old but clean jacket, scuffed little boots, and a plaid dress. Next to her stood a cardboard box displaying embroidered handkerchiefs and beaded crafts. Her honey-colored hair was complemented by a turned-up nose. But her eyes were the most striking, an unusual shade of violet, not blue, but more of a deep purple for my long, fluffy eyelashes. They were unforgettable. Nearby, the garden produce was being briskly traded. A man and a woman, having stepped out of a Lexus and heading towards a notary's office nearby, had just passed by. Suddenly, the woman turned back and stood in front of the girl. The girl greeted her with a friendly smile. The stranger picked up a beaded craft, her hands trembling. "Natalie, what are you doing standing there? We're late. We need to pick up the documents and get out of here," the man said irritably. He was a striking brunette, around 35, in a business suit. He might have been handsome if not for the harsh lines around his mouth and his grim expression. "Ethan, look at this craft," his companion said tearfully. She was also very sad, this striking blonde in a dark dress. "And so what? Let's go. There's no time." The man was almost turning away. But then he heard a whisper. "Amelie made ones like these. Remember? Amelie's crafts." He clenched his fists. His face drained of color, turning pale. No. He didn't want to remember. No more crafts. Too much pain they couldn't cope with for a year now. His golden-haired princess appeared in his dreams almost every night. How long could he live with this unspoken guilt? Every day he cursed himself, but there was no forgiveness, no redemption. He had been with his 6-year-old daughter in the yard. She was playing with a ball when a phone call distracted him. The next thing he knew, the ball was rolling away into nowhere, and his daughter was lying on the pavement. A group of drunks from a club had come out of their car, barely able to stand, and had been speeding through the yard. Punishment hadn't changed anything. Amelie was gone, no more. And no matter how much his wife said he wasn't to blame, he couldn't forgive himself. He had adored his daughter, lived for her, and now he didn't live at all. He moved like a robot. He ate, slept, dealt with things, but he didn't truly live. He wanted to forget, but now there were these crafts. He approached and picked up one of the beaded crafts. Yes, Amelie had made similar ones. Amazing. And for the first time, he looked at the girl selling them. Poorly dressed. His daughter had always worn the finest clothes. What kind of parents let their child sell crafts on the street? He was ready to voice this thought when his wife intervened. "They're so cute. How much are they?" "I'll buy them all. And the handkerchiefs too," Natalie said. The girl carefully gathered her things and handed them over in a bag. "Thank you, miss, for buying everything. But it's very expensive, $12. Let me give you a discount. $10 then," she smiled. Ethan laughed nervously. Expensive? $12? For him, this amount was practically non-existent. "Do you really want to make these silly things for such a small amount of money? Not enough for chocolates? And why don't your mom and dad give you money?" he asked, despite his wife's protesting glances. "It's not for chocolates. I need to buy bread, milk, porridge, cut it for soup, and if there's anything left, some oranges for Mom," the young seller replied. The man felt himself turning red. He had long forgotten that people lived like this, counting every penny. He had once dreamed of escaping this mire, and he did. He rose up. Now he had everything except his daughter. He would give anything, without hesitation, for a chance to see Amelie again, to hold her in his arms. Her mother is disabled. She needs a lot for treatment. And the girl is good, don't doubt it. We sometimes cover for her. She can't really be out here selling. We say she's our granddaughter, if anyone asks. Even this small amount helps. Rosie does her homework after school, cooks, takes care of her mother, and then comes here with her crafts and handkerchiefs. She's a craftswoman. She spends all her free time making things. Mabel, who was selling cucumbers, added to the conversation. "So, your name is Rosie? Where's your father?" Ethan asked sharply. The girl wasn't offended by the question. She looked up at him and simply said, "I don't have a father. And I never did. My mom's leg is getting worse. She can hardly walk, only around the room." "I'm sorry." Ethan felt awkward. He opened his wallet and took out a stack of bills, causing the eyes of everyone around to widen. "Here, take this." He handed the money to the girl. "No, thank you. But the miss already gave me money for the crafts. I don't need more." Rosie shook her head. "Take it, I insist. Buy food for your mother and yourself, and even a new jacket, and some sweets too." He smiled. "No, thank you. It's too much. I can't take it." She took her box and prepared to leave. "Your mother raised you well, and you have a very nice name." Natalie, Ethan's wife, patted her on the head. "And I'm named after a flower. Mom said that when Dad courted her, he always brought her fragrant roses," Rosie replied. "Hang in there, even though it's hard. The road is mastered by walking, as my mom always says." Tears welled up in Natalie's eyes. "Thank you, miss, for buying the crafts." And the girl left. After a while, having collected the necessary papers from the notary, Ethan and Natalie left the city. Ethan drove with a frown, a thought tearing at his mind, but he couldn't quite recall it. "Natalie, that girl had your eyes. Is that even possible?" his wife asked. He slammed the brakes and got out of the car. "You've lost your mind. I just said that. It's just a rare color, closer to violet. Could be a coincidence. I'm sorry. That was foolish of me." Natalie tried to hug her husband, but he shouted for her to get back in the car, turned sharply, and sped back towards the city they had just left. "What's happening? Why are we going back?" "Ethan," Natalie yelled, "how old do you think she is? That girl?" he asked as he turned to her. "About 10. But what's going on?" "She's my daughter," Ethan exclaimed, pulling over to the side of the road and coming to a sudden stop. He pulled over to the side of the road and stopped, dropping his head onto the steering wheel, crying. I had a girlfriend once. I loved her very much, wanted to marry her. I really brought her those fragrant roses. And when I left her saying everything I thought about her, she said that phrase, like my Rosie today. The road is mastered by walking, and they will not be lost. I thought she meant herself and Tom, my best friend. But it means she was talking about herself and the child. Ethan stopped and offered Natalie the wheel. His hands were trembling from the emotion. "Why did you break up?" Natalie asked. "I went to her place and she was sleeping on the couch, and Tom was there. Then she starts batting her eyes like nothing happened, nothing she remembered. And Tom, he always liked her, but she preferred me. Of course, he told everything. Sophia, Rosie's mother, denied everything, cried, but I didn't believe her. I left the city. If it weren't for this apartment from my uncle, I'd never have come back here," Ethan said. "She looks like you. She's a spitting image, just with lighter hair. It's foolish. You didn't recognize your own daughter, and you never told me about it," Natalie smirked. "What are you talking about, Natalie? It's a youthful mistake, maybe?" He tried to caress his wife's cheek. "A mistake? Wake up, Ethan. Your daughter is out there selling beaded crafts just to buy bread. Your own daughter, how could you?" Natalie exclaimed. He couldn't believe it, but without any DNA tests, he felt that Rosie was his daughter. He saw his own eyes in her face, and she made the same beaded crafts as Amelie used to. They would have been sisters. At the place where he had parted with Amelie, the last of the grandmothers was preparing to leave, taking her folding chair. "Wait, I'm here. We were here. The girl with the beaded crafts. Rosie. Where is she? Tell me where she lives. It's a small city. You must know." Ethan began to plead with the old woman to give him the address. "It's very important. We want to help," Natalie urged. "The dormitory over there, on the 3rd floor, behind the shared kitchen," the old lady answered. Ethan didn't remember how he rushed up the stairs, pulling his wife by the hand. They heard a faint cry. Ethan dashed to the kitchen. There, by the wall, stood his daughter. And nearby, several teenagers. $1 is not enough. Give more, or next time, we'll throw all your beaded crafts down the well. A boy of about 15 threatened. "No, I won't give more. I still need to buy things for my mom. I won't give it. We have nothing to eat. Go away." The girl held the money tightly in her hand. "Move away, all of you. Move away from her, quickly," Ethan shouted, and the teenagers were blown away from the room as if by a gust of wind. Only Rosie remained. Her lashes were stuck together from tears, but she tried to smile, looking at him with the most beautiful eyes in the world. His eyes. "And why are you here, Uncle? What are you doing here?" she asked. Ethan picked up his daughter, hugged her tightly, and whispered, "I came for you. I'm your dad." He walked down the corridor, holding her hand. The smell of sour cabbage filled the air. A group of drunk people stumbled out of one of the rooms, but upon meeting his gaze, quickly retreated. "Is it hard here? Will you ever forgive me?" He managed to whisper with a suddenly hoarse voice. "No, it's not hard. This is how everyone lives, isn't it? And the ones who came at me, they always bother everyone. But I would never give them the rest of the money. It's for Mom's groceries. I gave them $1. Otherwise, they might really throw my crafts away. I won't give more. I'll fight back too. I'm strong, Rosie said, looking up at him. A tiny, skinny girl with large eyes in an old dress, saying she's strong, and that everyone lives like this, at 10 years old, excluded from life. Will you forgive me, my daughter? Ethan thought at that moment. They arrived, and Rosie opened the door to the room. From the bed, a gaunt, not yet old woman lifted herself up. Her face was pale, with a feverish flush on her cheeks. But through all this, Ethan saw something else. The light-haired girl looking like a porcelain figurine, his first love. Hello, Sophia, Ethan managed to say. Come closer, my sunshine, my beloved. Lord, how I've waited for you all these years. There is a God, Ethan. He heard my prayers, and a miracle happened. He brought you to us. Rosie, don't leave her, I beg you. Don't abandon her. She has no one else. She's yours, Ethan. Believe me, if you want, take a DNA test. Just don't abandon her. I don't have much time left. She'll be completely alone. Sophia began to cry. Ethan embraced her and held her close. He listened to her disjointed story about how Sophia found out she was pregnant while he was away, how she went to his friend Tom, who was happy to hear the news, offered her tea, and wanted to take her to him. She drank the tea and then, a void. She came to when Ethan, convinced she had cheated on him, had already left, hastily fleeing the city. And that bastard! I'll deal with him myself, Ethan gritted his teeth. He drowned Ethan. Last year. Drunk. He went into the water, Sophia replied. She then looked up at Natalie. Your wife? She's beautiful. She tried to smooth her tangled hair. Uncle, Auntie, I brought you tea. Rosie's voice came from the side. There's only bread with the tea, but it's very tasty. I almost ate half the loaf when I bought it. It was still warm. Ethan watched his daughter. She held 2 cups and some pieces of bread on a stool. Bread he mostly ate in restaurants. At home, elegant candies and sweets were always in the bowls, and his child considered bread a treat. No, not Uncle. Dad? He placed the girl on his lap. Ethan, she'll get used to it, and she won't be a burden at all. She knows how to do everything. She cooks, she washes, and she studies well. She won't embarrass you, Ethan. Just don't reject her. She can't go to an orphanage. Don't send Rosie there. I understand you probably have your own children, but please, don't abandon her. Sophia clung to his hand again. What are you saying? Of course I won't abandon her. And the children? Our Amelie. We lost her a year ago, Ethan sighed. I'm sorry, I didn't know. Sophia leaned back on the pillow. Natalie approached her and sat down. They spoke softly. Ethan couldn't let Rosie off his lap. It felt as though she might disappear if he let go. Like a mirage, she might vanish, and he'd be left facing a road to nowhere once more. Ethan shook his head. Daddy, why are you crying? Won't you leave for so long again, Daddy? Rosie's small hand wiped the tears from his cheek. No, darling. Never. I'll always be nearby, he promised. 3 months later, Sophia passed away quietly in her sleep. Ethan adopted Rosie, officially proving that he was her father. Natalie took on a maternal role for Rosie, leaving her with fond memories of Sophia. Ethan completed the construction of a church in the city, investing a significant amount of money. He could only describe the meeting with his daughter, of whose existence he had been unaware, as a miracle. Not long ago, they all moved to a country house surrounded by the serene beauty of nature. There's a large flower bed there, and it is adorned with only fragrant roses, a testament to the enduring love and hope that had blossomed from the past. In the tranquil setting of their new home, Ethan often found solace in the garden, where the roses seemed to bloom with an understanding of their story, a story of lost and found, of healing and new beginnings. The fragrant roses served as a gentle reminder of the miracles that life can bring, and of the family that had come together against all odds. That's how the story ends, friends. Join the conversation below and express your thoughts on this novel. If you found it captivating, share the link with your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you never miss a new story that will make your heart race. Your support inspires us to create more tales. All the best to you. Take care and see you next time.